Good evening, everybody. This is John Craig, and it is another Walking in Spirit and Truth. Glad you're joining me tonight. And we're going to be jumping into some interesting visions of Enoch, some dreams that he's telling Methuselah. Kind of interesting, some very interesting things. So we're going to get into that here in just a few minutes. And we have some things to talk about. What do we have to talk about? One of the things is Life of Worship. Hey, do you all ever get a chance to log in with us at Life of Worship Ministries on Shabbat for our Torah portion at noon? We want to invite you. It's on the Life of Worship YouTube channel. So y'all feel free to connect with us on Shabbat at noon Central Time, and where we have a really good discussion with the Torah portion. So love to have you come this Shabbat. And also followed at 3 p.m. So that's 12. And that goes for a couple hours. And at 3 p.m., we have our regular encounter service for a time of praise and worship and ministry and a message. And you don't want to miss it. That's really cool. Also, we have a website. If you don't know what our website is, it is Life of Worship Ministries. I'm sorry, lifeofworshipamarillo.org. There it is, running across the bottom of the page. And so if you want to know what's going on with Life of Worship, you can connect with us there. You can connect with us on Facebook at Life of Worship. And I think that's about it, at least at this point in time. Also, well, it's the Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel. Do you know that every one of these shows that we've done on Enoch, they're all there. They're all under their own playlist. If you go to the playlist and you can see Walking Spirit and Truth Enoch series, and it's all there, and you can get caught up with us and just run it on constant play or whatever you want to do, and you'll hear all of our journey. You'll know it's a journey. It's not a teaching, it's a journey. However, there might be some teachable moments in the journey, but I think it's been a lot of fun. Been a lot of fun doing that with everybody. And also there's other things on our playlist as well. So check all those things out. What did I do before? Oh, we had the Book of the Giants before, which is connected to the Book of Enoch. And before that, I went through the two Estras or 4 Ezra, and which is also a very interesting book connected to the, I guess you would call him a priest. Yeah, he was a priest, Ezra. He was a scribe as well. And he wrote the first book of Ezra, which we all see in most of our canonized 66 book Bibles. But the second Esdras, or 4 Ezra, that is just a really interesting book too. So y'all go there, check it out. Pastor Sandi, she's done some excellent teachings. She's done some things on Psalm 23 and Psalm 91 and Psalm 1. She's had jumped into that. That's some excellent teaching. So you're like, what else can we see? We have all of our messages posted online, messages and Torah portions, all that fun stuff. That's enough here for now. And y'all ready to jump in? You ready to get into the Enoch? Let's go to where we left off last week in the book of Enoch. And last week we had gone through chapter 82, actually part of 81, 82. We also completed chapter 83, and just a reminder of where we were when we were going through chapter 83 and 82 is that Enoch is told that there's going to be a great destruction coming upon the earth. Remember that? And he was told that he needed to pray that there would be survivors. Isn't that interesting? Enoch needed to pray that there would be survivors. So what did he do? In chapter 83, he prays. And how does he start out with the prayer? The majority of that chapter 83, is in worship. And so he's like, in verse 2, blessed are you, Yahweh, the King, great and powerful in your greatness, Yahweh of all the creatures of heaven, King of kings, Elohim of the whole world, whose reign, whose kingdom, and whose majesty endure forever and ever. From generation to generation shall your dominion exist. All the heavens are your throne forever, and all the earth your footstool forever and ever. Isn't that interesting? Don't we see that over the Brit Hadashah, how the earth is Yahweh's footstool? It's interesting how we have all of those different types of connections. And he continues on with lots of, now he starts talking about the character of Yah, all powerful, unchangeable, that his presence and his throne is forever, and nothing is concealed from him. And I mean, it's totally cool. And then after all that, verse 6 is when he gets into the prayer. So here's the challenge question. How do we pray? How is it when we go into the presence of Yah, do we spend some time just in complete adoration of the Most High? And maybe it's just a thought. I mean, it's something for us to just to really consider, especially before we bring a petition before him. But he goes on and says, now then, O Elohim, Yahweh, and mighty King, I entreat you and beseech you to grant my prayer, that a posterity may be left to me on earth, and that all mankind may not perish, that the earth may not be left destitute, and destruction take place forever. O my Adonai, let the race perish from off the earth, which has offended you, but a righteous and upright race establish for the plant of a seed forever. Hide not your face, O Yahweh, from the prayer of your servant. So what's very interesting is the fact is that he's like, okay, preserve my family. Let my family be righteous. The righteous remnant of my family. That's who will be preserved from it. That those who have not offended you, but then he says, for the plant of a seed forever. Now, notice he says that, and an upright race established for the plant of a seed forever. Where have we heard the concept of a seed before? It's not seeds as in terms of multiple, but seed as in singular. And of course, you got to go all the way back to the beginning, and where it talks about the establishment of a seed, that seed line running from Adam all the way up to the time of Yeshua, the seed that would be preserved, the messianic thread that's connected to all of the righteous throughout the generations from Adam to Yeshua. I think it's quite a heritage there that Yeshua has. And that's all, should we say that this is all contributed because of the prayer of this righteous man, Enoch? I think it is, and I think it lends to the very thought of the fact that how powerful that prayer was. It establishes this and magnifies and glorifies the sovereign of the universe, and then and in other words, it's Enoch is saying he is completely submissive to the throne of the Most High, and then yet he boldly asked that his seed, the seed that would come out of his own family, would remain, that would be preserved. And then he also asked that the earth would not perish. So why? What is it that Enoch knows? What is it that he's seen? And we've read the book, right? And we know what happens in Genesis chapter 6 and 7. And we have the destruction of the earth, and yet a seed from the lineage of Enoch is preserved. So I think that's an interesting prayer that Yah answered, and continue to answer, because from Noah to Shem, going down to Abraham, and going on down to Isaac and Jacob, and then we have the tribes of Israel and the great multiplication that we see of Israel, and up to the time of Yeshua, we have the preservation of the seed through the line of Judah. What an amazing journey that is. And did you ever think that it all came from a prayer? Or did you just think that history just unfolded because certain people were righteous and of this lineage from Adam, and that they just maintained that righteousness? Or do you think they all participated in praying it forward? Yeah, I think that might be a connection there as well. And the fact that the power of one's prayer to pray to maintain a righteous lineage, I think, is a biblical standard that every one of us can pray for. That, and I mean, how many of us that have children And our children may even be grown. We may even have grandchildren. Are we praying for a righteous lineage? What happens when our children don't seem to be walking in the way that we're walking in? What happens if our grandchildren are being raised by the children that aren't pursuing this righteous lifestyle, this relationship with the Most High, as we would want them to see, and then our grandchildren being raised in that family? And I would just have to say is like, wow, there's a lot of responsibility, and yet never to give up, because there's so many different things that we know that Hasatan, in this world that we're living in, will throw all the different curveballs at us and try to do everything he can to possibly destroy what? Our seed line. Well, isn't it encouraging, the fact that Enoch, one person, one man, he prayed, and that seed was Noah. And that seed, Noah, had 3 sons. And yet, out of the 3 sons, we know that there is one out of that lineage that preserved it, and it proceeded forth from there. It's I think it's one. It should be encouraging to us. Never ever give up, because there was a lot that he was seeing. There was a lot that Enoch was experiencing on the earth. There was a lot that he had seen. There was a lot of encounters that he had. He understood the battle between the light and the darkness, right? There's all of these different challenges. I was just thinking, Luann, you put in there, that's my family. I was just thinking about this. Why not also be praying that out of the lineage of our parents, or out of the lineage of and then how many parents, and then how many kids did our own parents have? And then we're looking at cousins, we're looking at second cousins, and all of that, and we think, how many of them are following after the ways of Yah? But even when the family tree goes wider and wider, that the lineage would be preserved. I mean, I think about Sandi and all of the work that she's done on Ancestry, and how wide our family trees are. And then we look at our family, and we know what a lot of our family is like, and how many of them are actually even following in the same faith, and let alone even if it's just that they have the Jesus piece, so to speak. I mean, how many of them actually have that, let alone pursuing these roots of our faith and wanting to grow deeper in Messiah, taking it all the way back to the very things that we know are foundational in the Torah. It makes me, it makes me feel, in terms of family sense, feel kind of alone out here, other than you all, and our friends that are part of Life of Worship, and the family that's been part of Life of Worship with us. And I think, at least there is this remnant together, and yet the desire to see more and more of that connection. And then I think, also considering the current political climate, how many people are going, whew, we got past that election season, whew, we got past that inauguration, whew, all these great things are happening and taking place right now, and we like seeing, for the majority of what's happening, it seems like a lot of good things are taking place, which I would agree. And yet, does that mean that it gives us a chance to relax? Or is this actually an opportunity that the enemy can even press in even harder against our families, to cause another sleep cycle? We certainly don't want another sleep cycle, do we? And when in Ephesians it says, "Awake, awake, O sleeper," rise. And you think about the 10 virgins. They've fallen asleep. They've been waiting so long. They finally got tired, and they fell asleep. And until up to the time of the sound of the shofar, and the sound of the friend of the bridegroom calling out, saying, "The bridegroom is coming, the bridegroom is coming." And they rise up, trim their wicks. So the urgency, even though it seems like it's just like, well, we've been doing this for years, and we must remind ourselves that the perseverance is even that much better, much bigger, much more powerful. So anyway, I just think that those are some of the things that that we should really be paying attention to and be ready in this time, in this season. It's just where we need to be. So Enoch gives us perspective here, and I love the perspective. Did you know I came across something earlier? I think it was yesterday. It's either yesterday or maybe it was this morning when I was looking at some things and pondering on the book of Enoch, and it was talking about, why was Enoch not added to the canon of Scripture? Well, we know that Enoch was added to the canon of Scripture with the Ethiopian version, and I think there's some Orthodox versions, like Eastern Orthodox versions, that may carry the book of Enoch. But why is it that in in the Western world, why did they not want to add the book of Enoch? And so it was, and so the things I was studying out and I was looking at is like, well, the conjecture is that the thought of the time was that the book of Enoch was dangerous to the regime of the Roman Catholic Church. And because what if people were able to read, of course, not a lot of people could read back in the 3rd, 4th century at the very roots of the Roman Catholicism, and not a lot of people could read, but the very fact when they put together the canon of Scripture that they left that out, and also keeping in mind that it was the Pharisees and the descendants of the Pharisees, who are our modern Orthodox Jews, that they didn't want to add the book of Enoch to their canon of Scripture from Genesis to Malachi, and they left it out on purpose. And remember what we were talking about before is how the Pharisees the different parties, different Jewish parties or sects that they had, that they were battling out, and as into who would have the influence, or ultimately who would have the control. And it was the Pharisees who won out. And when they went out, then of course they get to write the narrative. And in writing the narrative, they decided the book of Enoch should not be part of the canon of Scriptures. And yet in the library, the priestly library of the Dead Sea Scrolls, they found multiple copies of the book of Enoch. And in other words, it was saying is that, well, that particular party that was not of the Pharisees or the Sadducees, that particular party thought it was important enough to preserve it, like they did Isaiah and many of the other books of the Torah. So what made the book of Enoch so dangerous? And that is what which brings up the question is why? Because it gives, in fact, when I've read it through, as far as we've read through so far, in terms of doctrinally speaking, it's very solid. In fact, when we read through it, and it's not a lot of things I was like, well, I didn't know that. It's like, well, I've read that before. Where do we read it? Well, we read a lot of it in the Brit Hadashah. We've read a lot about it in the Tanakh, from Genesis to Malachi. We've formed a lot of what we believe through the 66 books that we have been allowed to be considered part of our canon, and yet Enoch presents it in a bold way, and he puts it out there in front of everybody instead of in so many different ways in the canon of Scriptures that we have, that some of it's just kind of mysterious, or it leaves a lot to conjecture. And yet here Enoch just, says, boom, this is the way it is. He saw heaven. He saw hell, or Hades. He saw the whole realm of the giants, the angels coming down, the fallen angels, the watchers. He saw them with the genetic splicing and the manipulations that went on. He saw all of that firsthand. And for a lot of people's theology, what was it that the Roman Catholics didn't want people to see? What did they not want to be understood? What was it that they were holding back on? Would they feel like maybe they would lose control of the narrative? Have we not heard that somewhere? Is it kind of like a cyclical thing? Do we like, we're losing control of the narrative, so let's just call it misinformation or disinformation, and let's put a community note on it, or no, let's just ban them completely so that they're not able to express their opinion, or we won't ban them. We're just going to throttle down their reach so that they're actually the only one that can see what they just posted and nobody else knows that they posted it. I mean, isn't that what happens if you keep everybody illiterate? When people are not able to read, they're not able to discuss, they're not able to conjecture, they're not able to research things out, they're not able to they have to rely on the person that's up there in the pulpit that's feeding them that little disc and putting in their mouth with a sip of juice. I don't mean to make fun, but I'm just saying, if you can control the narrative, then you can then you're able to keep people in a particular position, and they'll never rise above that position outside of a powerful move of the Holy Spirit. So we do have some big challenges here, but the book of Enoch gives us a lot of different things, and it also gives us this idea of I hope that even us going through this allows us to stir up more of a hunger, saying, I want more. And I'm not talking about necessarily wanting to just go out and look at all of the things in the ether realm of our faith, as much as I'm saying, is this stirring up a love, a desire, an interest, a hunger for wanting to know more about the things of Yah in this relationship we have, and even that level of responsibility and accountability that we have with the Most High. So I go back to this thing here, that even Enoch was looking for a seed. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's considered righteous. In the definition, righteous is that one who is righteous is the idiom of one who follows Torah, one who is not lawless. For when one doesn't follow the law or Torah, then one is lawless or Torah-less, and they're lawless, and that's how John defines sin over the book of First John. So for sin is lawlessness, and we can see that Enoch is actually declared that, but he's saying, I want a righteous race, and he's not talking about an ethnicity thing. He wants a righteous family, and that's just the way the translators translated this version. So I think it also behooves us to go over and look in what Peter wrote, talking about Noah was a preacher of righteousness. Yeah, man, without instruction, because another way of what is Torah, it is the instructions of Yah, and one who is without the instructions of Yah is certainly lost, right? They don't have any way to follow, and they don't know. They're just kind of hit and miss. You can have a certain standard if you at least stay on the 10 commandments. You're doing pretty good. But anyway, so hide not your face, so Yahweh, from the prayer of your servant. So that was his desire, is that the seed line, the promised seed, would survive, as we see from Genesis chapter 3, and that there would be this enmity, this battle, a battle between the serpent and the seed. And that seed, of course, remember, was singular. It wasn't plural. It was seed. And so we pick up on that, a little hint that goes on there, but we see a thematic connection that runs throughout the scripture, looking for the seed, to protect the seed, keep the seed from getting cut off from the earth. Because what is it that Hasatan wanted to do? Is to cut off the righteous seed, that seed line that would bring salvation. And so Enoch is making that prayer that his line would be preserved, and that the seed would even come through his lineage, his posterity. So I also see how, of course, we know he was honored. He was honored by the Most High. So, all right, we're going to jump forward. Chapter 84, let's go into that. Now we run into where where Enoch is continuing to talk to Methuselah, and he's been relaying some things and like a vision or whatever, a dream to Methuselah, and he's got another one. And so what's he say here in chapter 84? Let's go ahead. Let's read it. It's short. It's a short chapter. It says, after this, I saw another dream. So there it is, another dream. Okay. And explained it all to you, my son. Then it says, Enoch arose and said to his son Methuselah. Wow, it's almost like it's switched to a third person. To you, my son, I will speak. Here, Shema my word. Doesn't that remind you of Deuteronomy chapter 4? Shema, hear, O Israel. Shema, hear, guard, protect, obey, do my word, and incline your ear to the visionary dream of your father. Before I married your mother, Edna. Well, did you know that Enoch had a wife? And she has a name. It's very interesting. So here in the book of Enoch, we actually find his wife's name is Edna. And I saw a vision on my bed. So it kind of brings it down to a familiar level. Okay, so this is my wife, Edna. Okay, I saw a vision on my bed, and quite a lead up, right? This is before I married your mother. Okay, I saw a vision on my bed, and behold, a cow sprung forth from the earth. This is not the cow in the first Twister. You know, they're driving down the road and they're saying, cow, another cow. No, I think it's the same as the first cow. Oh, never mind. If you didn't see the first Twister, you don't know what I'm talking about. If you saw it, then you're like, that's not funny. Okay, I always thought that was a funny scene. I even laugh at it now if I watch the rerun on it. Okay, afterwards, so what do you do? I beheld a cow sprung forth from the earth. Springing forth. How does a cow spring forth from the earth? Well, I got to go back to Genesis chapter 1 with that one, because on the sixth day, what was created on the sixth day? All the beasts of the field, right? Okay, so a cow sprung up from the earth. This cow was white. It was a white cow. Afterwards, a female heifer sprung forth, and with it another heifer. They're like popping out of the earth. Okay. Now, another heifer, the one was black and the one was red. We have a red heifer and a black heifer. So we got some symbology. What are you thinking about when you think of about maybe a black cow and a red cow, a red heifer? The black heifer then struck the red one and pursued it over the earth. From that period, I could see nothing more of the red heifer. Wow. So the black cow struck the red heifer, and the red heifer disappeared. It got chased around the earth and it disappeared. But the black one increased in bulk, and a female heifer came with him. After this, I saw that many cows proceeded forth, resembling him, and following after him, like more black cows. And the first female young one also went out in the presence of the first cow. So remember the first one, it was a white cow. So the first female young one also went out in the presence of the first cow and sought the red heifer, but found him not. She lamented with a great lamentation. Let me say that again. And she lamented with a great lamentation. Okay, I just had to do that for emphasis. And while she was seeking him, then I looked until that first cow came to her. From which she became silent and ceased to lament. Afterwards, she calved another white cow, and again calved many cows and black heifers. In my sleep also I perceived a white bull, which in like manner grew and became a large white bull. After him, many white cows came forth, resembling him, and they began to calve many white cows, which resembled them and followed each other. Well, you know, in the book of Exodus, didn't Pharaoh have a dream about different cows? And then the cows, they had some fat cows and or some cows that got real fat, and then there were skinny cows, and the skinny cows ate up the fat cows. And well, okay, well, I don't think it's the same thing as that, but I do think that it's very interesting that we got the differentiation, the distinction between the black cows and the white cows. This has nothing to do with race. Okay, I think it has to do with the issue of righteousness and unrighteousness. Remember, did anybody ever goes to vacation Bible school, or backyard Bible schools? Did anybody ever do anything like that? If you did, raise your hand. Let me see it. Okay. All right. So I did. I remember, and one of the stories, and even in Sunday school, right? Sunday school, because I was raised a good Baptist. No, but never. But that was one of the stories that they would tell. One of the symbols, right? That they would show was they had the white thing, the white little like square, and then they had the black square, and then they had the red square. I think it was at least those three. There might have been another color. And of course the picture was, this is your heart. Maybe it was a heart-shaped thing. And that our hearts are black because they're full of sin. But because of Yeshua and his heart, which was red, and what he did, it washes away the black, and then our heart becomes white. Remember, that was kind of something like that. It's very simple, illustration about, the sinful nature needing the blood of Yeshua and the forgiveness of our sins and that type of thing, right? And so I'm thinking about that when I'm reading through this, talking about these cows, and it's like, well, there's this white cow, it all began with a white cow. Righteousness was in the earth until something happened, and it brought unrighteousness, an unrepentant righteousness. In fact, unrighteousness that would pursue another. What was the one he pursued? It was the red heifer. And of course, when we look in the book of Leviticus, we learn about the red heifer sacrifice and how we need the red heifer for the purification of the temple, of the priests, of the utensils, of the furnishings. You need the ashes of the red heifer in order to do that. The picture of Yeshua being that perfect red heifer sacrifice. That's what Israel's looking for. I mean, that's what they have. They preserve. They've got some red heifers that are they're aging out. They need to get more red heifers. But so anyway, they have these red heifers, and this red heifer is pursued by the black one. Why? Because Hasatan does not, the very fact that there's a red heifer means that the purification, the possibility of purification is available. And so the black heifer doesn't want that. The black heifer is taking over the temple. No, I'm just kidding. The black heifer is running and taking over the world. And I mean, think about this. If Hasatan can do everything in his power in order to stop the prophecies of the Most High from being fulfilled, then if a prophecy is not fulfilled, then Messiah cannot return, because every prophecy has to be fulfilled. It would make the Most High out to be a liar, and it's impossible for God to lie. But if he can lie, if he can be shown to be untrustworthy, if he can show and break the power of the prophecy, then I think in Satan's mindset is that he would be able to retain his power upon this earth, and he could truly be God of this world. More explaining on that. There's more teaching on that and understanding that connection, but that's it in a breakdown. Okay. I'm kind of paraphrasing some things, but if he can stop prophecy from happening, like if he could stop Yeshua from being born, then the Messiah would not grow up to die and be resurrected. I mean, essentially that's what happened. I mean, when King Herod sent out his soldiers to kill every child under the age of 2 years old and younger, it would stop the Messiah who had come on a specific date that the Zadokite priesthood was looking for. By prophecy, they knew even up by the date when Messiah would be born. And I mean, that's how the Magi, that's how they knew that Messiah would be born, and then where to look for him and where to find him. And they would even read, the signs of the heavens and all that, but they would bring them to that specific place to see the Messiah. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's just amazing how it unfolds. A prophecy is fulfilled. If Hasatan can stop prophecy from being fulfilled in one way or another, then he can retain his power on the earth. And so here we have the black cow chasing the red cow throughout the world. And then the red cow, he's beat. He gets beaten up by the black cow. Isn't that the picture of Yeshua? Wasn't Yeshua pursued? Makes me wonder, when you think about the that Mel Gibson movie where Yeshua is, teaching in the land, and you see the Pharisees. They're following around. They're listening to him, and they're doing everything they can to entrap him by his words. But how are they dressed? They're wearing these black, gowns. I just think about that. I just think about that's been the traditional color of the gowns of the Pharisees for centuries. It's carried on. The color that we see even among the Jewish Orthodox is wearing the black gowns. It's just been more modernized. And you think here is that this black one is trying to striking the red heifer. The anti-missionaries are still striking the red heifer in order to prevent that message from getting out. Many people coming in the Hebraic roots of their faith start to listening to these anti-missionaries and then end up getting off the path, looking for a Messiah to come as opposed to believing in the Messiah that got them there in the first place. And so, and yet here's this white one, the innocent one, the righteous one that's looking for Messiah, waiting for his return. And I think that is where it's really an amazing thing to see this in the picture of this dream, that Enoch had this dream. And then the cows come forth, they multiply. And we see that all's not lost. It means that it shows that the black heifers are not prevailing, yet they're still in the earth. That's right, Tammy. Yeah, all the judges in the court systems, they wear the black robes too. That's pretty serious. And what were they doing? Well, they've been striking down the innocent, throwing them into prison. Good thing that those pro-lifers and those people that went to stand up for the Constitution got pardoned by President Trump. That's all I would say about that. So that's that dream. That's the dream in chapter 84. And I really think it's a pretty cool dream. Because to me, I'm looking at it, it's like, this is an incredible messianic prophecy. And it really kind of gives a nice little word picture. You could tell that, you could teach that. You can take chapter 84 and teach that to your grandchildren. I want to tell you about the cows. I got a cow story here in Amarillo, Texas, the center of cow country in Texas. No, let's go down to Hereford, Texas, and then we can really tell the story of the cows. Because we got the Black Angus cows and we got no, I'm just kidding. Okay. Chapter 85. We're going to go there. So let's move on. We're walking. Move along. Okay. Chapter 85. Again, I looked attentively while sleeping. Now this is very interesting because he didn't say that he was looking attentively. It's almost like that first dream caught his attention, and yet he's not awakened yet. And so now he says, again, I looked attentively while sleeping and surveyed heaven above. So now, do you ever have one of those dreams where, where you're sleeping at night and you're having a dream, and then that dream kind of goes into the next dream, and that next dream becomes more vivid? And it's almost like you're cognitively aware that you're dreaming, but you're in a deep sleep. Does anybody ever have that before? And so you're perceiving and thinking through the process of what you're dreaming. I mean, you're actively engaged in your dream. It's like a whole different realm of dreaming, and I think this is really important when we think about that. And it says again, I looked attentively while sleeping. So he's thinking in his sleep as he's dreaming, and he surveys heaven above, and behold, a single star fell from heaven, which being raised up, ate and fed among those cows. The cows aren't gone yet. It's just that he's paying attention even more. A cow tail. At least it's not a squirrel tail, Terry. Okay. And after that, I perceived other large and black cows, and behold, all of them changed their stalls and pastures, while their young began to lament one with another. Again, I looked in my vision and surveyed heaven, when behold, I saw many stars which descended and projected themselves from heaven to where was the first star, into the midst of the. Okay, so let's pause right there. Let's recap. What's he doing? He's looking and he sees a star falling from heaven. Well, it's not a meteor. Remember how we defined what a star was? Because remember back in the parables, when earlier, many chapters ago, and these were the parables of Enoch. And among the parables of Enoch, it talks about the stars. And later on, we learned when we were talking about these stars that the stars were angels. The angels are stars. I mean, they're synonymous with one another. And let's continue to define angel. Angel being a messenger of the Most High. So each having a position, each having a job to do. And so we have right here a star that descends, where it says a single star fell from heaven. And all that kind of also kind of points to an issue. One, it descended from heaven, and yet it fell from heaven. Isn't there a place where, I think it's in Luke chapter 10, verse 18, and where we have this connection, the 70 are sent out, they come back, they're all rejoicing, they're pretty happy. And Yeshua says, and he said to them, verse 18, I was watching Satan, Hasatan, the adversary, fall from heaven like lightning. Remember what we said about the stars? The stars are angels. The angels are stars. Angels are messengers. This Hasatan being in the archetype level of the angels, along at that same, the adversary, Lucifer, up at that same level as Michael and Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael. I mean, that's pretty high up. And it says, and I saw Satan fall from heaven. Now we have a connection here. We have a connection of this angelic connection. So who fell? I mean, why would Satan fall from heaven? Or shall we say, what did Enoch see? He saw a star fall from heaven. Who is this star that fell from heaven? Now, some would say that it would be Azazel, because I think he was considered to be the first star that descended, that came down, and he started the whole process along with the other watchers, the 200 watchers that came with him who fell from heaven. So it's not only that they descended from heaven, but they fell from their position by which they stepped outside of the Torah. What do you mean? They were given an assignment to be watchers, but not to mingle with the sons of men. When I say mingle, they weren't supposed to procreate with the people of the earth, and so the women of the earth. And that is, and so we have a twofold picture of a descending, but a falling from their position by which they would not be able to ascend back into. They're gone. They're done. They're over. What they had before was gone. And so I see that this is, and then he sees this one that fell from heaven, and it says, which being raised up, ate and fed among those cows. Ate and fed among those cows. So is he eating the cows? I don't know, but what is he devouring? In other words, but wait a minute, is a cow, or is a cow a representation of a person? I would have to say the latter, because it's not talking about cows. It's talking about people. And he ate and fed among the people. After that, I perceived other large and black cows, and behold, all of them changed their stalls and pastures, while their young began to lament one with another. So think about this. So now, large and black cows, now we're talking about the unrighteous people in large, and I would suggest that perhaps that would be the mature ones, the adult ones. And they change their stalls and pastures. In other words, it gives a sense that they're changing sides, that maybe they're aligning themselves with this star that fell from heaven, while their young began to lament one with another. Like, where did they go? Is this right? Why are they going over there and we're left behind, type of thing? And again, I looked in my vision and surveyed heaven, when I saw many stars which descended and projected themselves from heaven to where was the first star. So now we have more of these watchers, these fallen ones, these angels descending, leaving their place, their abode of from on high, to come to the earth to join Azazel, this first fallen angel, the watcher, into the midst of those young ones. So they're in the midst of those young ones, while the cows were with them, feeding in the midst of them. So now these other, so some cows join Azazel, and yet here's these other watchers. They've fallen, and they're coming into the place where the young ones are, the ones that were lamenting, saying, "Mom, Dad, where'd you go?" And now we're having more of this fallen angelic influence upon the younger ones. That's how I'm reading it. As maybe you'll see it in a different way. I looked at and observed them, when behold, they all acted after the manner of horses, and began to approach the young cows, all of whom became pregnant. Wait, what? Okay, now get this. Another word. What's he saying? He's saying that these fallen angels are acting like horses, and they're approaching these young cows, and these young cows get pregnant. So, in other words, it's given a picture and description of crossbreeding the angelic with humans. And they're cows. Remember, these aren't bulls, these are cows. So these are females. And it says, of whom became pregnant and brought forth. And what did they bring forth? That is kind of crazy. And this is a crazy dream. Is this a pizza dream? Wait a minute. Did Enoch have pizza before he had this dream? Because it says, and brought forth elephants, camels, and asses. What? Okay, but no, do you get the picture? Right, Terry, you're following me, Terry. You know exactly what I'm saying. We have genetically modifications going on. Something's coming out of these cows that are being birthed from these young cows. Then they're not cows. They're a breed. They're breeding. At these, all the cows were alarmed and terrified when they began biting with their teeth, swallowing and striking with their horns. They began also to devour the cows, and behold, all the children of the earth trembled, shook with terror at them, and suddenly fled away. This is quite an amazing word picture, a dream, but honestly, it also goes back. Remember what he said, this is before I married your mother, Edna. Think about that. So this goes back in his younger days. I don't know how Enoch was at the time. He was definitely younger, but could this dream have taken place before he had these angelic encounters? Because before could he had these dreams, and then later on had these face-to-face angelic encounters with Gabriel, and Michael, and Raphael, and Uriel, and all the others, right? Think about that. So, but he has these dreams, and he's sharing it with Methuselah, and he's like, I had these dreams. They were really weird, but guess what? We're living it right now. In fact, those fallen angels, they're kind of scary, creepy, and everybody ran away from them. Okay, so they also began to devour the cows, and behold, all the children of the earth trembled and shook with terror at them and suddenly fled away. Chapter 86. Again, I perceived them when they began to strike and to swallow each other. And the earth cried out. And when is it that the earth cries out? Right? Do you remember when the earth cries out? Like the earth cried out with the blood of Abel. And so when the earth is crying out, it's because innocent blood has been spilled. So again, I perceived them when they began to strike and swallow each other, and the earth cried out. Then I raised my eyes a second time towards heaven, and I saw in a vision. So he's still asleep, and he's like, wow, this is like totally weird. And the earth cried out. And so he's like, I'm looking for help. And a second time towards heaven, and I saw in a vision that behold, there came forth from heaven, as it were, the likeness of white men. One came forth from thence of three with him. Those three who came forth last, seized me by my hand, and raising me up from the generations of the earth, elevated me to a high tower, or a high station. Then they showed me a lofty tower on the earth, while every hill became diminished. And they said, remain here until you perceive what shall come upon those elephants, camels, and asses, upon the stars, and upon all the cows. So there's these four angels. One came forth, and then three with him, and Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael is my guess. That's who. And they took him and put him in a safe spot, in an elevated spot, a place that was so high that even the hills of the earth, the mountains of the earth, they were small. So that's kind of now he's at and it's like, stay here, and until I'm going to show you what's going to happen to all of these mixed breeds, that all these creatures that came forth out of the cows. So this is something that is where he's getting insight of what's going to be happening on the earth. And Enoch, he's also, I think it's also telling us something about Enoch, that he is going to be seeing, he's going to be able to see from his vantage point what's going to transpire from the earth when all of these genetically modified creatures, including the giants, face judgment. And that's what and he's getting this vision before he's married to Methuselah's mother. So how are we doing on time? Just have a couple minutes left. And let's go into 87. Let's do this real quick. Then I looked at that one of the four which came forth first. He sees the first star which fell down from the earth, and binding it hand and foot, cast it into a valley narrow and deep, stupendous and gloomy. Then one of them drew his sword and gave it to the elephants, camels, and asses, who began to strike each other, and the whole earth shook on account of them. Remember in the book of Giants, and also earlier in Enoch, that it was the giants began to fight each other before the flood came. And so here we have this picture as well. And the whole earth shook on account of them. And when I looked in the vision, behold, one of those four angels who came forth, hurled from heaven, collected together and took all the great stars, whose form partly resembles that of horses, and binding them all hand and foot, cast them into the cavities of the earth. So here's the 200 watchers in this vision that Enoch gets before he married Edna, Methuselah's mother, and he's seeing in this vision, this dream, all the things are going to take place, and how the watchers be gathered up, bound, and cast into the pits until the appointed time. There you go. Wow, what a journey tonight. Hey, I sure appreciate everybody joining us. We're going to pick up next week on chapter 88, because there's a then. That means the vision continues. We're going to have to continue with the visions next week. Hey, thanks for being part of Walking in Spirit of Truth. Like, share, subscribe, pass it on, let people know if you get something out of it, and say, hey, you got people like I don't know anything about the Book of Enoch. Well, you got to go to Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel and check out the whole series because it's quite an adventure. Anyway, we'll see y'all next time. This is Pastor John Craig with Life of Worship in Amarillo, Texas. Shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Sandi Craig, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.